With rumors ablazing about a brand new Crash Bandicoot game coming really soon, what can we expect from the brand new game? Let's discuss right now.
I got hot sauce in my bag, swag.
Quick shout out to Mr. Snonic. This is a fan of Metal Duckles that they drew, and you got Metal Sonic in here also, kind of questioning why Metal Duckles looks the way that he does. Probably thinking that like, hey, Metal Knuckles, when did you decide to grow a beak? And so this is really funny. Thank you so much. I really appreciate it. Anyway, hello there beautiful human, my name is RidersDX. Welcome to my channel, where today we've got a Crash Bandicoot video, and I'm so glad that I'm getting to do another Crash Bandicoot video. I really want to do more Crash videos. It's just that with like Sonic and SpongeBob taking up so much time, it's hard to like fit Crash in there. But I've been playing through a lot of like the Insane Trilogy recently actually, and I'm in a very Crash Bandicoot mood, and what better time to do it because there are so many rumors and speculation going on right now about the next Crash Bandicoot game. It's pretty insane, and I thought this would be a really good time to talk about what are some of the things that we can hope for and also can expect from the next game. Now, I know that a brand new Crash Mobile game has just gotten out, and while I would love to and would be expected to talk about that, my phone can't actually play it, and so the only video I could really make is just talk about things that people are already talking about in their videos. And so yeah, it's unfortunate, you know, I wish my phone could play it, but my phone is about as old as however old Aku Aku must be. Like, I don't know, it's just a really goddamn old phone. But in the meantime, I can speculate about the next Crash Bandicoot game, and so I'm really excited for whatever the next title is because the platforming is just so ingenious and so addicting, and I really can't wait to see what Activision does next to Crash, because it's more than likely that the next game will not be a remake. It'll probably be something completely original, you know, based on previous reports that they made. And so that's really exciting. I really am curious as to what the next Crash game would be. I cannot wait to lose more hair over Crash Bandicoot. I mean, it's just such a special bond, you know. Might be seen as abusive to some people, but to me it's love, just plain love. But in today's video, I got 10 bullet points about possible things that we could see in the next Crash Bandicoot game. So I'm gonna first talk about why I want to see this particular bullet point in the next game, how likely I think it is to actually be in the next game. So a bit of an extra layer to that from the typical Crash Bandicoot PS4 2020 wishlist thing that a lot of people have been doing up to this point. So yeah, let's go ahead and get into my list. And number one, something I would love to see in the next Crash Bandicoot game is a really huge hub world. And so the kind of hub world I'm talking about is not the one that we saw in Crash Bandicoot, you know, the first game. Instead, what I'm talking about is something that's maybe similar to what they did in Crash Tag Team Racing. So, you know, just this like nice open space that Crash can travel around, you know, talk to people, complete side quests, etc, etc. You know, just something to kind of connect all the different levels together, because I love Crash's control in a 3D space, and I will love to have more opportunities to do that. I mean, all Crash Bandicoot games have that, but there's just something really nice about having like a wide open space where you can kind of do whatever it is you want and not be pressured to finish a level or get all the crates and such. You know, just a place we can explore and not have to worry too much, you know, just a place to chill actually. And so the funny thing about the hub world in Crash Tag Team Racing is that it makes absolutely no sense in a game like that. It actually make a lot more sense in a game like what's probably the next Crash Bandicoot game, which will probably be like another platformer. And so one of the big reasons I'd love to see a huge hub world is I would love to see all kinds of different characters make an appearance in there that you can talk to with Crash. And so I would love to see that. Now, whether or not it will happen in the actual game, I kind of doubt it, to be honest. I'd more so expect like another warp room, kind of like Crash 2 and Crash 3 and Graphic Cortex, but you never know, a guy can dream, and it wouldn't be the first time we had a hub world because like I said, Crash Tag Team Racing did it. So I would love to see the idea brought back and actually be utilized correctly. And number two, another thing I would love to see in the next Crash Bandicoot game is, well, a deeper storyline. And so I know that the storyline has never been a huge part of Crash Bandicoot. I mean, it's always there, but it's never the one that takes like a really prominent role in the game, with the exception of like maybe Crash Twinsanity if you want to count that. But I think since Crash Bandicoot has so many characters and so many like backstories they can dive into, it kind of makes you wonder what would those stories be? Like, what would they actually tell? And if they wanted to invest a little bit more in characters, what would they do with all the characters? Now, granted, most of these characters are villains, but villains can actually have very interesting backstories, as you've seen from various franchises, including Cortex. And so I think it'd be great for Crash Bandicoot to tackle like a deeper storyline. Like, I wouldn't want something on the level of, say, the Sonic games, but I would like something with a little bit more substance, you know, maybe exploring like the lore of the masks a little bit more, or exploring like Crash's personality a little bit more, maybe his relationship with Coco, you know, just like give me more info about these characters so that I can like feel a lot more connected to their storyline. And so it's just something that I've always wanted to see with Crash, and I don't know, I don't think I am going to expect that they will do a deeper storyline with the next Crash game, just because most Crash games do not go for that, and I would not expect the first original Crash game in a decade to take too many risks, if I'm being honest. And so I don't think we're going to get a deeper storyline, although I will say maybe we will get some lore at least, because if we're still to remember that mask, that mysterious mask that showed up in that PlayStation trailer, then we definitely may be getting some kind of storyline to do with like the history of these masks, which sounds really cool. And so I'm really looking forward to seeing what they do. And number 3, what I really love to see is more Naughty Dog-esque gameplay. So Insane Trilogy not only brought back this gameplay style for a lot of older fans, but it also introduced a lot of new people to the franchise as well. I mean, it's the highest selling Crash game for a reason, and so it definitely has introduced a bunch of people to this gameplay style, and a lot of people will be looking for more of that in the next Crash Bandicoot game. And so I think it's an obvious choice to just include more of that kind of gameplay, make more levels, and just really take advantage of the incredible platform that Crash Bandicoot is known for. And so this is pretty much guaranteed. I have absolutely no doubt we're going to be seeing more of this kind of gameplay in the next Crash Bandicoot game. I mean, there's already many rumors telling us that this is what it's going to have. And so I have absolutely no doubt that this is what's going to happen. And if Vicarious Visions is developing the project, which a lot of rumors suggest that they are, and also a lot of like things in terms of timing that just makes sense. If Future Tense is anything to go by, we're definitely in for a treat in terms of great gameplay. So I'm really looking forward to seeing what they do with this gameplay in the next Crash Bandicoot game. Number 4, I think this is going to be a really interesting bullet point, but I would love to see the main antagonist not be Cortex. And so before all the Cortex fans really jump down my throat, here's what I have to say. I love Cortex dearly. He's a great villain and a great antagonist for Crash Bandicoot. But one of the things I love about the series is that there's so many different villains in this universe that I actually would love pretty much any of them take the spotlight for once and be the main antagonist. I just think it would be a great way to throw something different into the storyline and give us a bit of a different taste. You know, I really love seeing Nitrous Oxide be the main villain in Crash Team Racing Nitro Feud. I kind of like seeing the evil twins be the main villains in Crash Twinsanity, although I think they could have been better written in some parts. Point is, I think having a little bit more variety and actually giving us a different villain for the game here and there would be a really good idea. And I also think it would create the opportunity for Crash and Cortex to work together a little bit via Twinsanity. And I can't help but think of wanting that, okay? Like, I miss Twinsanity. I want to see it brought back in some shape or form. And so if that means just some gameplay concepts being put into this new game, then I'm okay with that and I fully support it. But anyway, how likely is this going to happen? Pretty much not at all. I would expect the first Crash Bandicoot game to come back after a whole decade to include Cortex as the main villain. Like, it's not rocket science. It's very, very obvious. But nonetheless, it is something that I think they should consider in the future because there's so many different villains. It'd be really cool to see any one of them be like the main antagonist for a game. And number 5, this is kind of a weird point, but I think you all will understand it once I start talking more about it, but less of the miscellaneous gameplay styles. And so I might get a lot of crap for this or not. I'm really not sure how the community feels about this part of Crash Bandicoot, but I'd like to see a little bit less of the vehicle levels that were prominent in Crash Bandicoot Warped and Wrath of Cortex especially. You know, these levels were fine. I didn't hate them by themselves, but I feel like especially in Wrath of Cortex, they were just way too prevalent and took too much attention away from the main attraction. And so I think there's a place for them because it's nice to have that little distraction from the main gameplay. It throws a little bit of variety in there, and they're inserted in a way where they don't take too much time. But I think you really do need to meet a good balance and make sure that the primary platforming still takes center stage. And I think they really struggled with that balance in Wrath of Cortex. And so I really do not want to see an emphasis on the vehicles again in this game. I would like them to focus more on the platforming. And like I said, some of them are fun, but they never compare to the main gameplay style. It's just no comparison. It's ultimately what brings people to buy Crash Bandicoot in the first place. And so you definitely want to make sure that you're providing the consumer with what they're expecting the most. Now, I actually think that Twinsanity had a pretty good way of going about this. It had a few different gameplay styles like the sliding and some different playable characters, but they were much less prevalent and the main focus was still Crash, and they also were not too different from the main gameplay. I mean, the sliding was definitely different, but Nina Cortex and Dr. Cortex had some similarities to Crash in terms of their gameplay style, and so I think they all served as welcome distractions from the main gameplay. They were there for a perfectly short amount of time and also played not too differently from Crash, which I think was a great way of going about it. Now, how likely is this? I'm really not sure. For all we know, Vicarious Visions could be taking tons of inspiration from Warped and Wrath of Cortex, but I do hope for the first original Crash game in a decade, they play it a little bit more safe and focus more on the iconic platforming, because yeah, I'm not the biggest fan of those distractions. I think it's fine every once in a while, but I definitely don't want it every other level, please. At number 6, in terms of the design of the characters and the environments, I would like them to continue using the Insane style, or something a little bit similar. I love Crash Bandicoot's look currently, and I feel like it's a little bit too soon to let go of it because we've only had 2 remakes with them. And so I think that this design still has a lot of room to grow on people and a lot of room to go. I would love to see it implemented in a brand new Crash game. And so even if they have to change it a little bit for the next generation, I think they should kind of keep the same ideals, because drastic design changes to a character is not always a good idea either. It's always good to make sure that you kind of ease these changes in so that people accept them little by little, and eventually Crash Bandicoot will look completely different from what he had once looked. So how likely is this? I don't think it's too likely, considering that this game is most likely being released on the PS5, and so with a new generation of consoles, you typically get a new look. That's just what's always happened. Now, I will say that with these recent generations, the differences in designs have not been as drastic as they used to be in the past. I remember seeing Sonic go from the Dreamcast to the GameCube era. There was definitely a huge difference there from Adventure 2 to Sonic Heroes. But I don't think there's been as big of a difference in recent console generations. We went from Sonic Generations to Sonic Forces, which was basically the same Sonic. And so I don't think we'll see a drastic change, but we might see a change. Now, if the mobile game is anything to go by, it definitely won't be too drastic of a change, because I really like the mobile game style. I think that Crash Bandicoot definitely does have a different look to him, but he still has a lot of similar facial expressions that he got in the Insane Trilogy, and he still kind of has that same feel. I don't know if that's the best way to explain it. And so I think if the next game does take on a similar style to the mobile game, I'll have no issues with it. I'll welcome it, actually, because it looks really good, and from the footage I've seen of Crash Bandicoot, Crash just looks great, especially for a mobile game. So no complaints here. At number 7, this is a very personal thing that I love, but I would love to see more Crash Twinsanity-esque gameplay. And so this kind of ties into the hub world idea, but I'd love to see it in actual levels. So while I do think that it is vital that we get that classic Naughty Dog formula in there, I don't see why we can't also have some levels that are more similar to the Twinsanity side of things. I think Twinsanity definitely showed a lot of potential for where Crash could go in a more open world formula, and I think that kind of game would kind of suit the current game market a little bit more than just another typical Naughty Dog style game. And so with Vicarious Visions behind it, I think they could come up with a lot of different cool level designs by opening up the level more, because having that corridor level design, it definitely has a lot of room to insert a lot of different things in there, but I think having that open world level design gives you so much room to do so much more, and it might be so much more room that Vicarious Visions might have trouble thinking of things to put in there. But I think given the opportunity that Vicarious Visions can do some really great things in there, I can kind of see it as it being like a level trope, kind of similar to how like the chase levels are, for instance, or the levels where you ride the hog. I think that it can kind of be like its own category in terms of levels, and I would love to see Vicarious Visions and Activision do something with that kind of formula, because I really think that there should be a Crash game in the future that takes more ideas from Twinsanity, because it really is what I see the next direction being for Crash Bandicoot if they're going to evolve a little bit beyond the Naughty Dog formula. Now, in terms of this next Crash game, I don't see it being very likely. For the first original Crash game in a decade, it may be better to just play things safe and just focus on what people loved, but who knows, honestly, like Crash Team Racing Nitro Fuel surprised us all to no end, so who knows, maybe they'll surprise us just as much with the new game. At number 8, I would love to see more playable characters in this next Crash Bandicoot game. I loved being able to play as Coco throughout the Insane Trilogy, and I loved playing as Cortex and Nina in Twinsanity. I really love it when they put in extra playable characters, because it does add some variety into the gameplay, and it also gives like other characters within the Crash universe to shine, because this not being a very hugely story-driven franchise, there's not a lot of places for you to really let certain characters shine, and so having other characters be playable is one of the best ways to give characters more screen time. And I really think that the way that they handled Coco, Cortex, and Nina in those games was really well done, and I'd love to see other characters in the future be handled in the same way if they're going to be made playable. It'd be best to try to like make them stay similar to Crash's primary gameplay, and I think the one that's the best example of all of these without being a complete clone is Nina Cortex. I feel like Nina Cortex's gameplay, obviously it had some key differences from Crash, but it still was primarily platforming, and it still felt like it was a Crash Bandicoot game. It's just that Nina had slightly different moves that made her gameplay slightly different from Crash Bandicoot, and so I think that is the right way of going about making different characters, giving them different moves from Crash, but still making their gameplay all about the platforming, all about that Crash Bandicoot design mentality. And so I really hope that that's what they do with other playable characters in the future. And also just a personal thing, but I really want a playable Crunch. Like, I'm so surprised we still haven't had Crunch be playable in a mainline Crash game yet, and so I really want to see what Crunch would play like. I feel like there's so many different things you can do with Crunch, and so I really hope that they try to tackle that in the next game. But yeah, just something that I'm really excited about. Now, how likely is this? I think we can probably count on Coco being playable, and if the rumors are true, then Cortex might be playable as well. I'd love to see more beyond that, but I won't be surprised if they again play it safe with this game and just leave it to those two. I think that's a good step up nonetheless, and they can only work their way up from there on out. At number 9, so this is something that might make some people angry, but you know what? This is my true opinion, so I'm just gonna go ahead and put it out there. Do not reboot the franchise and call this Crash Bandicoot 4. I'm gonna kind of direct you to Crash mobile game, because in the mobile game there are a ton of references to all kinds of different Crash Bandicoot titles, such as Crash the Titans and Crash Twinsanity. And so I love how the mobile game is addressing this, because it's acknowledging that all that history happened with Crash and it's all canon. And I think that's the perfect way to go, because you know, some people have called for this game to be a Crash 4 and to wipe out the history that happened after Crash Bash, just because it was less than stellar for the Orange Bandicoot. And I have a big problem with this mindset, because I'm someone that grew up with Crash Bandicoot after the Golden Trio and the Golden Racing game was released on PS1. I got into Crash Bandicoot through Crash Twinsanity, and that game, while it had its flaws, was a really fun game to me, and it remains one of my favorite games from my childhood. And so I don't think it's right to exclude that side of the fandom just because you don't believe those games were as good. I really think it's important for Crash to acknowledge his entire history, even the low points, because there was someone that got into the franchise at that low point, and they deserve to have their games be respected, to an extent at least. And so I really liked how the mobile game made all these references to the different games, and I hope the new Crash game does the same thing. I think it would be awesome to just include lots of different nods and such, you know, just like easy things that you don't need to put too much thought into, because that way you'll please so many different fans and just make them come back for more and more of this game. And so I think this is 100% going to be the case. I don't think this will be a reboot. The mobile game has clearly proven to me that they're not going to forget Crash's history, and this will be a continuing from all the games that we had so far. And so I do hope the next Crash game does have tons of callbacks to old games. I have a feeling if they did that a lot with the mobile game, then they'll probably do that again with the new Crash game as well. So very much looking forward to that. At number 10, so if I'm being kind of honest, I actually couldn't think of a 10th bullet point. You know, I feel like I covered pretty much everything that I'm going to be looking for in the new Crash Bandicoot game. But then I thought about this fact, and regardless of anything I've said up to this point, at number 10, I want Vicarious Visions, or whatever the development company for this game is, to follow their own vision. If there's something that I've seen with so many different franchises, it's that you listen too much to feedback, and as a result it kind of convolutes your game. It makes it to the point where like no one is pleased by your title. And I'm not gonna say that that's gonna happen with Crash. I've seen it happen with some of my favorite franchises, unfortunately, like Sonic the Hedgehog, but I think Vicarious Visions should be very well trusted with the next Crash Bandicoot game, because they did such a good job with the Insane Trilogy, and of course by remaking that entire game, you get very used to the philosophy of that game, the design mentality of that game. And so Vicarious Visions probably knows a lot about what made that game or series of games so great, and are probably the best people out there to replicate that formula and make it even better. And so I trust Vicarious Visions. I want them to follow their own vision and make the game that they want to make a Crash Bandicoot. Now, if it's not that great, then definitely feel free to criticize it, but most of the best games in the world come from the team following their own vision and not trying to appease every single fan out there, because that's not possible. You're not going to appease every single fan. You know, there's probably going to be something in the game that I'm not going to like, and that is okay. That is reality. What's most important is that you create a great experience overall, and I totally think that Vicarious Visions has what it takes to do that. I really hope they are the ones developing the next game. It pretty much seems like they are. I mean, I don't see what else they could be working on, but you really never know. I mean, for all I know, it could be a choice for Bob also, because that leaked concept art. But I mean, what else could Vicarious Visions be working on? Like, I really don't know. And so that is the end of my list. I hope you all found something interesting throughout this video. I hope you all are excited for the next Crash Bandicoot game. I don't know when it's coming. I really hope it's coming soon though, because I would love to see it. I would love to talk more about it. Oh, I'm getting so excited just thinking about it. Like, I'm really starting to get into Crash Bandicoot again. I've just been in a very Crash Bandicoot like mood recently, and I'm so excited to see what the future brings, and I hope you all too. Let me know in the comment section below what you want the most in the next Crash Bandicoot game. I'd be really curious to hear your thoughts, everyone. And so yeah, thank you so much. Okay, please give this video a thumbs up if you like it, subscribe to my channel if you like videos like these, want to see more in the future, follow me on Twitter or Twitch, and join my Discord server, the Spongy Garden. Special shout out to Reese Gaming, Team Route Sonic Gamer, Glitch Dolphin, Andrew Coughlin, New Gamer Hub, Abraham Muner, Mass Muner, and Angry Studios. These are my patrons / YouTube members. If you'd like to become a patron or YouTube member, get access to a whole bunch of different perks, then please check out the links in the description box below. But alright, this is Riders, riding out.